Welcome everybody to another Voice of Nick show. We're going to be doing more video editing here, and I'm pretty excited because we finished the organization step of our Hobbit video. So now we actually start cutting this thing. So we're going to, I guess, start it off at the beginning with the intro. Let's take a look at our opening again and see what we got. Let me take a quick look at this real quick though. Okay. Good. Have you ever heard of the Hobbit video game? Well, I played it, and I gotta say, it's pretty good. Alright, so we either have this, or Intro Alt 2, I think was the one we liked. Have you ever played the Hobbit video game? From 2003, this was from Sierra Entertainment, right around the time the Lord of the Rings movies came out. So I wanna cut this and see if I like this better. Played the Hobbit video game from 2003. It's totally based on the Hobbit book alone. Have you ever played the Hobbit video game? I played it. I really enjoyed it. Let's take a look at it. Have you ever heard of the Hobbit video game? Well, I played it, and I gotta say, it's pretty good. I like this original one better. It's usually the case that when you're working with like takes on something, the first take is almost always the best one. Even if you think like there's technical improvements in the next ones, the energy levels on somebody's first take is usually the best, and they're like mental problem solving for like coming up with words to say and stuff is usually the best too. So first of all, big shout. That's why I don't really believe in doing a lot of takes. You can see here that I kind of do everything in one take, and then I record an intro outro at the end again, and that's it. Like a lot of people will keep redoing their own takes and stuff, but I've never found that like heavy revising ever makes a difference, or I never almost even ever use that stuff. So first of all, big shout out to Decaf Bossman, who sent over the copy of the Hobbit game. Introduction to the game. First of all, big shout out. It's pretty good. Okay, I want to take a look at the thing we added about Sierra Entertainment though. Hobbit video game from 2003. This was from Sierra Entertainment, right around the time the Lord of the Rings movies came out, but it's not based on the Lord of the Rings. Okay, I actually do want to add this tiny little piece in there. From 2003. Because I want to have the ability to cut in a little bit of Hobbit footage before the title card. The Hobbit video game. From 2003. This was from Sierra Entertainment, right around the time the Lord of the Rings movies came out, but it's not based on the Lord of the Rings. Video game? Well, I played it, and I gotta. Have you ever heard of the Hobbit video game? From 2000. Video game from 2003. Have you ever heard of the Hobbit video game? From 2003. Game from 2003. This was from Sierra Entertainment, right around the time the Lord of the Rings movies came out. Well, I played it, and I gotta. Well, let's give that a little bit of breathing room there. Came out. Well, I played it. Well. Well, I played it, and I played it, and I gotta say, it's pretty good. Okay, nice. Now, let's put in a black frame for a title card, or I guess we've been doing red frames. I like it better if it's red because you can tell that something's supposed to go there, that it's different than just a regular, because this could be a black frame or this could just be negative space. You don't really know. So first of all, big shout out to Decaf Bossman, who sent over the copy of the Hobbit game to be played on our streams. I am a big Tolkien fan, so I really enjoyed playing through this one. Big shout out to okay, good. The Hobbit game to be played on our streams. I am a big Tolkien fan, so I really enjoyed playing through this one. The story behind this, it's not based on Peter Jackson's The Hobbit. It's not based on the 1970s Rankin Bass cartoon of The Hobbit. This is actually a unique adaptation from Sierra Games back in 2003. Clearly they were trying to capitalize, I guess, on the popularity of the Lord of the Rings movies, because 2000. We gotta either cut the thing out of the beginning or cut this out of here, because I'm saying the same thing twice within very close proximity. Video game from 2003. This was from Sierra Entertainment, right around the time the Lord of the Rings movies came out. Well, I played it, and I feel like this is pretty important, because at the beginning of the video, you want to be able to see the game before we hit the title card. So we're probably going to keep this and get rid of the other. Movies came out. Well, I played it, and I gotta say it's better. Well, I played it, and I gotta say it's well. Big shout out. Streams. Let's see if we can cut around this. Fan, so I really enjoyed playing through this one. The story behind this, it's not based on Peter Jackson's The Hobbit. It's not based on the 1970s Rankin Bass cartoon of The Hobbit. This is actually a unique adaptation from Sierra Games back in 2003. Clearly they were trying to capitalize, I guess, on the popularity of the cartoon of The Hobbit. Let's actually just cut that. This is actually a unique adaptation from Sierra Games in 2003. Clearly they were trying to capitalize, I guess, on the popularity of the Lord of the Rings movies, because 2003 is when the third Lord of the Rings film came out. And Sierra, I guess, owned the rights, or they had the rights to the Tolkien estate's works. So not to the... Here we go. Good, because we jump through that and we just go straight to this, which explains it anyway. Hobbit and 70s Rankin Bass cartoon of The Hobbit, and Sierra Sierra Hobbit. Sierra, I guess. Sierra, I guess. Sierra, I guess, owned of The Hobbit. Sierra, I guess, owned The Hobbit. Sierra, The Hobbit. Sierra, I guess, owned the rights based on the 1970s Rankin Bass cartoon of The Hobbit. Sierra, I guess, owned the rights. Rankin Bass cartoon of The Hobbit. Sierra, I guess, owned the rights, or they had the rights to the Tolkien estate's works. So not. I guess. I tried to say had right there, so let's cut in had. Or they had the. Oops, how did that happen? Oh, this is linked to that. Okay. I guess had the rights to the. Ooh, that's a nice cut. Gotta love when it actually works. Sierra, I guess, had the rights to. Oh, that's good. Hobbit. Sierra, I guess, had the rights to. Yes. You can never assume that a cut like that is gonna work, because sometimes your inflection is totally different. This one happens to sound exactly like I'm saying it. Sierra, I guess, had the rights to the Tolkien estate's works. So not to the movie licensing, which Warner Brothers had, but rather they had the actual book licensing. So they. It's Warner Brothers, right? New Line Cinema made the game, or made the films. But Warner Brothers has the rights to the games. It's the distributors of The Hobbit. New Line for the Lord of the Rings is a subsidiary of Warner. I didn't know that. Well, that explains why Warner, because I've always seen the Warner Brothers logo on the Lord of the Rings games. Went ahead. That's very interesting. We learned something. Warner Brothers had, but rather they had the actual book licensing. So they went ahead and made their own adaptation of The Hobbit, which strangely came out after their adaptation of Fellowship of the Ring. I guess there's two studios working on that. One was. We're gonna cut that part out because I never established that Fellowship of the Ring game existed yet. Maybe we'll do a Fellowship of the Ring review at some point, and then we can, in that video, talk about how The Hobbit came out after it. One was faster than the other, but it's their own unique take on the story. It actually has some really interesting adaptational ideas, and let's go through it. Let's take a look at The Hobbit game. Adaptation of The Hobbit. So they went ahead and made their own adaptation of The Hobbit. I don't think we're gonna need this part, but I'm gonna put this in a scratch sequence because we might want it. Oops. I'm just making a separate sequence that will have all of our, like, you know, orphaned clips. Eventually we will take a look through that and make sure that there's nothing that we truly want in there. But sometimes you need a little snippet and then you find it in, like, the clips that almost made the cut but didn't quite. Let's go through it. Let's take a look at the style of this game is very cartoonish. I'm not sure if we're gonna use this part, but let's take a look. So, like, the style of this game is very cartoonish, which I guess fits with the kind of feeling of the story itself. The Hobbit's kind of more of a happy-go-lucky story than Lord of the Rings, and the game is kind of fit into the mold of a early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s platformer, which is sort of exactly what you would want The Hobbit to be. You don't really think about Bilbo doing that much jumping, but it works pretty well in this one, especially the fact that they incorporate his signature walking stick into. I think we could use this. At least it'll make the first cut. So, like, the style of this, Whoa! Did I cut out the S? The style of this game is very cartoonish. Adaptation of The Hobbit. The style of this game is very cartoonish, which I guess fits with the kind of feeling of the story itself. The Hobbit's kind of more of a happy-go-lucky story than Lord of the Rings, and the game is kind of fit into the mold of a early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s platformer. Okay, we're gonna mess with this edit of the next part, but let's see if this fits. So they went ahead and made their own adaptation of The Hobbit. So, like, the style. No, I don't like that. So, style of this game is very cartoonish, which I guess fits with. So, of The Hobbit. The style of this game is very cartoonish, which I guess fits with the kind of feeling of the story itself. The Hobbit's kind of more of a happy-go-lucky story than Lord of the Rings, and the game is kind of fit into the mold of a early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s platformer. Maybe we don't need the cartoonish thing. Itself. Their own adaptation of The Hobbit. The Hobbit's kind of more of a happy-go-lucky story than Lord of the Rings, and the game is. Oh, this is what we wanted. Head and made their own adaptation of The Hobbit. The game is kind of fit into the mold of a early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s platformer. A early 2000s kind of fit into the mold of a early 2000s, late 90s, late 90s. Late 90s, early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s platformer. Late 90s, early 2000s of a late 90s. A late 90s, early 2000s. Mold of a late 90s, early 2000s. Late 90s, early 2000s platform. Mold of a late 90s, early 2000s. To the mold of a late 90s, early 2000s platform. Kind of fit into the mold of a late 90s, early 2000s platformer. Good. Which is sort of exactly what you would want the Hobbit to be. You don't really think about Bilbo. So that was a weird, I guess, thing that I said, because right afterwards I'm talking about how it's not what you'd want the Hobbit to be, so I'm going to take that out. Platformer. You don't really think about Bilbo doing that much jumping, but it works. Platformer. You don't really think about platformer. You don't really think about platformer. You don't really think about Bilbo doing that. Platformer. You don't really think about Bilbo. There's some kind of sound happening here. Platformer. You don't really think about platformer. You don't really think about platformer. You don't really think about Bilbo doing that much jumping, but it works pretty well in this one, especially the fact that they incorporate his signature walking stick into the jumping. You can do like a large jump while using the walking stick. It feels really good. It actually does feel really authentic to his character, despite the fact that Bilbo's not necessarily supposed to be that, agile. I think it works for what they're doing. Bilbo's not necessarily character. I think we can cut that next part out. Yeah, the whole thing has, there's not like any blood or guts or anything, obviously, but it actually does feel really authentic to his character. Cool. So we're about a minute into this edit here. Let's also just check that our downloads came in. So we have 20 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we're checking for this as well as to see if there's like errors on the right side. If it's corrupted, it won't have any info. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Great. All right, so now we're going to put in all our footage. We can just do that. Drag this in. And then we'll be able to sort of work with some B-roll from the episodes. We'll probably have to spend an episode or two making proxies for these clips. But that'll be a future one. There we go. Let's make sure it works. Yeah, cool. To not cringe at the spiders. Good stuff. Alrighty, ladies and gents. Well, we are well on our way towards having a Hobbit video. Let's actually put a little bookmark in our thing right at the end. It's pretty easy to know, but it's worth doing. Now, if you don't know the channel where these YouTube videos end up, we're editing on stream to actually create videos that go on a YouTube channel. That channel is called Voice of Nick Vlogs, and you can actually find that. I'll post a link to it in the chat here. If you search Voice of Nick Vlogs on YouTube, you'll find the channel. Give it a subscribe. There's a whole bunch of stuff on there already. We actually already have 6 videos that we've made in the last couple months, and those are all sorts of behind the scenes and game reviews and food tours and all sorts of stuff. So give it a look. Hopefully you'll like it. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.